Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're diving into a topic that a lot of you have been asking about,
Yeah.
the South Sydney Rabbitohs,
Mm-hmm.
and really their connection with the Indigenous community.
Yeah.
Um, and so you guys wanted to go beyond just the surface level stuff that you hear in game day commentary and all that.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're looking at articles, historical information, all sorts of stuff to really understand
Right.
what makes this team so unique.
It's a fascinating story,
Yeah.
really. You can't talk about the Rabbitohs without
Right.
understanding their home turf, Redfern.
Okay.
It's historically a major hub for Indigenous Australians, and it's got a strong connection to
Yeah.
the whole fight for Indigenous rights as well.
So for someone who's not super familiar with Australian geography like myself,
Right.
what is the significance of Redfern? Why are we talking about this place?
Okay, so imagine it like this.
Okay.
Redfern is considered the heart of Indigenous Australia. During the 20th century, many Indigenous families moved there seeking better opportunities, but they often faced a lot of hardship and discrimination.
Right.
And the Rabbitohs, being right in the middle of it all, became more than just a sports team.
Yeah.
They really represented hope and pride for a community facing some serious challenges.
So it sounds like their location really played
Huge role.
a huge role
Yeah,
in shaping their identity.
absolutely.
Did that then translate into how the club interacts with the community?
Absolutely. They go way beyond simple gestures.
Okay.
Take their South Cares program, for example.
Yeah.
They're not just throwing money around, they're investing in long-term solutions.
Okay, so this is where it gets really interesting for me because I love learning about these community programs,
Mm-hmm.
but sometimes it's hard to see the tangible impact.
Yeah.
Like, what does South Cares actually do?
They focus on things like education, employment, health initiatives
Great.
that directly address some of the systemic issues that Indigenous youth face. It's about giving them the tools and the support that they need to thrive, not just temporary fixes.
That makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
Now, of course, we can't talk about the Rabbitohs
Yeah.
without mentioning some of the
Right.
legendary Indigenous players who've worn the jersey.
Yeah.
Eric Sims, for instance.
Yep.
I hear he was a game changer back in the 60s.
He was truly a pioneer.
Yeah.
Imagine breaking racial barriers in the 1960s and holding goal-kicking records
Wow.
that still stand today.
Goodness.
That's Eric Sims.
Yeah.
His impact goes way beyond stats. He paved the way for other Indigenous players to shine.
Wow. It's amazing to think about the courage that it must have taken for him
Oh,
to
yeah.
play during those times.
Absolutely.
And then you have guys like Nathan Merritt,
Oh, yeah.
a true fan favorite.
Oh, yeah.
That speed was unreal.
Nathan Merritt is a Rabbitohs legend.
Yeah.
He is their all-time leading try scorer,
Wow.
which in rugby league is a huge deal. His electrifying style of play made him a crowd favorite. And then, of course, you have the powerhouse that is Greg Inglis.
Greg Inglis needs no introduction.
Yeah.
His Goanna try celebration was iconic.
Yeah.
What was it about that celebration that resonated so much?
It wasn't just a celebration. It was a powerful statement.
Okay.
The Goanna holds deep spiritual meaning in many Indigenous cultures.
Mm-hmm.
It symbolizes strength and connection to their land.
Wow.
So when he did that, you could feel the pride radiating from him, and it resonated with Indigenous fans across the country.
Yeah, I could see how that would be a powerful moment for both the players and the fans.
Absolutely.
Seems like a real turning point in terms of Indigenous representation in the sport.
And speaking of representation, there's John Sutton.
Yeah.
He holds the record as the longest-serving Rabbitoh,
Wow.
demonstrating the club's commitment to nurturing Indigenous talent.
Talk about dedication.
Yeah.
It's clear that they're not just interested in short-term gains.
Right.
They're building something meaningful.
Right. It's about creating a legacy. And speaking of legacy, the Rabbitohs are very active participants in the NRL's annual Indigenous round.
Right.
You'll see them wearing Indigenous-designed jerseys,
Mm-hmm.
taking part in pre-game ceremonies that celebrate Indigenous culture.
I know a lot of sports leagues do some sort of heritage or cultural round.
Yeah.
What's unique about the NRL's approach?
Well, the Indigenous round isn't just about showcasing pretty jerseys for a week.
Right.
It's a dedicated effort to recognize and celebrate Indigenous contributions to the sport,
Okay.
and to educate fans about the rich history and culture of Indigenous Australia.
Yeah.
The Rabbitohs really embrace this, incorporating cultural elements into their gameplay and even using their platform to advocate for Indigenous rights.
So it's safe to say they go beyond just the symbolic gesture.
Oh, absolutely.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
They seem to do a lot with community engagement in Redfern as well, right?
Absolutely. They have a variety of initiatives from running rugby league development programs to visiting local schools. It's all about inspiring the next generation of Indigenous athletes and building a strong connection with the Redfern community.
So they're not just about winning games, they're about building a community.
Yeah.
I like that.
They've really set a standard for other sporting organizations, showing that genuine commitment to Indigenous representation isn't just the right thing to do.
Right.
It's also a powerful way to connect with fans and build a strong team culture.
So it's not just about optics, it's about a genuine connection.
Exactly. Their heart is clearly in the right place.
Yeah.
But some critics might argue that...
Hold on, critics.
Yeah.
What kind of pushback do they get? I'm intrigued.
Well, some people suggest that focusing so heavily on one cultural group could be seen as exclusionary to others, or that it's tokenistic rather than a genuine commitment to inclusivity.
Right.
But the Rabbitohs have been very clear that their support for Indigenous Australians comes from a deep understanding of the club's history and location in Redfern. They see it as a fundamental part of their identity,
Right.
not just a PR move.
Yeah. I can see how some people might misinterpret their intentions.
Right.
But it seems like they're walking the walk, not just talking the talk.
Exactly. And their approach has had a tangible impact.
Okay.
Think about it. Generations of Indigenous superstars have worn the cardinal and myrtle, further cementing this connection between the club and the community.
Yeah, it's like this incredible cycle of inspiration where young Indigenous kids see these legends playing for the Rabbitohs
Absolutely.
and think, hey, that could be me one day.
Absolutely. And the club actively fosters that dream through their development programs and community outreach.
Right.
They're not just waiting for talent to come to them.
Yeah.
They're going out and nurturing it, creating pathways for young Indigenous athletes to succeed.
So they're not just about representation in the field. They're about creating opportunities for the next generation.
Precisely. And they've been very vocal about their commitment to expanding these efforts even further.
Yep.
They're actively working to identify and develop new talent, strengthen ties with Indigenous communities beyond New South Wales,
Wow.
and expand the South's CARES program to reach even more young people.
Wow. It sounds like they have a lot of ambitious plans for the future.
They do. And it's not just about maintaining the status quo. It's about pushing further, doing more,
Right.
and being a true leader in this space.
It's inspiring to see a club so dedicated to making a positive impact, both on and off the field.
Yeah.
But, you know, not every team has this kind of deep-rooted connection with a specific community.
Right.
Do you think this model is replicable for other sports organizations?
That's a great question. The Rabbitohs story is unique,
Right.
but their core values, embracing diversity, supporting local communities, and creating opportunities for underrepresented groups, those are universally applicable.
So it's less about copying the exact model and more about finding ways to genuinely connect with your own community
Exactly.
and address the specific challenges that they face.
Exactly. Every team has its own history, its own context. Right.
The key is to find those points of connection, those opportunities to make a meaningful difference.
And it's not just about sports, right? These ideas can be applied to any organization, any business, any industry.
You're absolutely right. It's about recognizing the value of diversity and inclusion, not just as a box to tick, but as a source of strength and innovation.
Right.
It's about understanding that when we create opportunities for everyone to thrive, we all benefit.
Well said. So for our listener who's clearly interested in the impact of sports on communities,
Yeah,
I think the Rabbitohs offer a fantastic case study.
absolutely.
They've shown that success on the field can go hand in hand with a deep commitment to social responsibility.
Absolutely. It's not an either situation.
Yeah.
You can strive for excellence in your sport while also making a positive impact on the world around you.
Right.
In fact, as the Rabbitohs have demonstrated, embracing diversity and inclusion can actually enhance that excellence.
It's a powerful message.
Yeah.
They've really set the bar high for other organizations looking to make a real difference. They have, and they leave us with a thought-provoking question. Considering the Rabbitohs model, what responsibility do other organizations have to promote representation and support their local communities?
It's a question worth pondering, and perhaps it'll inspire you to explore other examples of teams or organizations successfully engaging with and uplifting the communities around them.
There are so many inspiring stories out there waiting to be discovered, but let's get back to the Rabbitohs.
Okay, so we've covered their history, their community impact, their legendary players.
Yeah.
What about their plans for the future? They mentioned expanding some programs, right?
They did. They did. They're very committed to developing even more Indigenous talent and looking at ways to strengthen ties with Indigenous communities beyond New South Wales.
Okay.
And they've also hinted at expanding the South's CARES program to
Hmm.
reach even more young people.
It's amazing to see how much they've accomplished
Yeah.
and how dedicated they are to pushing even further.
Mm.
They've really woven Indigenous representation into the very fabric of the club.
It's true. And they've shown that it's not just about having Indigenous players on the field.
Right.
It's about creating a culture of respect and inclusivity at all levels of the organization,
Okay.
from the coaching staff to the boardroom.
So to wrap up this deep dive into the South Sydney Rabbitohs,
Yeah.
they're far more than just a rugby league team.
They're a symbol of Indigenous pride, empowerment, and inclusion.
Yeah.
A club with a rich history of Indigenous players and a deep commitment to promoting Indigenous voices and talent both on and off the field.
And they've set a powerful example for other sporting organizations and really any organization
Yeah.
looking to make a real difference in the world.
They really have, and as we discussed, their story prompts us to ask,
Yeah.
what responsibility do other organizations have to promote representation and support their local communities?
It's a question we can all ask ourselves no matter what field we're in. Maybe this deep dive has inspired you to look at your own workplace or community
Yeah.
and think about ways to champion diversity and inclusion.
There's always room for improvement,
For sure.
and even small actions can make a big difference.
Absolutely. So to our listener, keep exploring, keep asking questions,
Yeah,
and keep pushing for a more inclusive and equitable world.
absolutely.
And who knows, maybe you'll uncover some inspiring stories of your own.
You never know.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.